The Lakers have spent the last 3 seasons trying to recapture the magic of their 2020 playoff run. They were injured for basically all of 2021 and were on their back foot going to the playoffs, resulting in LeBron's first ever round one loss. In 2022, they did the Russ experiment, which failed dramatically, and this previous season, trading Russ mid-season actually completely flipped the script. That and Austin Reeves getting better and getting Rui for basically free from the Wizards, and they unfortunately went into the playoffs on their back foot yet again just because they didn't have time to develop chemistry. But they still managed to make the conference finals, where they did get stomped by Denver. But with all that said, as, valiant of an effort as LA has put up to try and get a second title out of the LeBron James era in LA, I think this year will be the last year they really even have a shot at doing that. Let me explain why. Real quick before I get into this video, if you end up enjoying it, please be sure to drop a like. It only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference on how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. Also subscribe for 3 NBA videos a week. Also subscribe to my second channel for daily NBA videos that are more rambly and less edited than this, although these are also rambly, so it's just more of this shit on that channel. So now, as for why I think this could very well be LA's last year with this core, with the LeBron James era, is because LeBron has said as much himself. You kind of have to be living under a rock to not truly be aware of the fact that LeBron has said on multiple occasions that he would like to spend his, if not his last season, his last few seasons playing with his son, Bronny, and his son is going to be drafted and playing in the 2024-2025 season, and depending on where he actually goes in that draft, it could affect where LeBron ends up, and very likely could cause him to leave LA. Now, I think maybe there's some people who think Bron's not that serious about this kind of thing, but LeBron doing unprecedented shit is not exactly new. It's really in character for him. Now, that might not necessarily mean that he does leave in that next year, but I also wouldn't be surprised if LeBron's like, all right, 22 seasons, I think that's enough. I don't need to push it to like 23, 24. But he has a $57 million player option for the 2024-25 season. And that's interesting because he's probably not going to get that money at that age somewhere else. I don't think that would be even plausible. I don't even think it could happen if they wanted it to happen. So for that reason, is he going to leave all that money on the table just to play with his son? I don't know. LeBron can be a ruthless businessman. But I'm just going to take the presumption here for the rest of this video that LeBron wants to play with his kid and will do whatever it takes to do that. Now, of course, LA could very well just draft Bronny and avoid this whole scenario, but I also feel like LA wouldn't exactly hate moving on from LeBron just because it's kind of the natural thing to do, as they intended to do when they got him initially to begin with. That's what initially means. I honestly don't think he could pick up that option and then expect to be traded, though, because like, who's trading for that much salary for that old of a LeBron? I mean, maybe a very specific situation where you have a bunch of bad contracts and you want to draft Bronny, but I don't know. I'm not convinced teams are going to specifically draft Bronny just to get a super, super old LeBron. But, some teams are shameless about ticket sales, so maybe, I don't know. I am actually really curious how this is going to play out. Like, this is a very overall weird circumstance. One way or the other, the point is I think LeBron has indicated enough about his plans in regards to his son to mean that there is a strong probability that this is LeBron's last year in LA. And because of that, they should subsequently be operating as though this is the last year that they have a chance to actually make this title run happen. Unload the clip. This is the year. This is when you do it. Now is the time, because I don't think you'll have another chance. So that's what LA needs to be doing here. So the question is is the team that they have going into this offseason good enough to potentially really compete for that championship and potentially get a second one in the LeBron era? Or are there moves that need to be made? Now, first, let's just take a look at this roster after the big free agent acquisitions that they've made. That being bringing back, of course, Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura, as well as signing Gabe Vincent and Taurean Prince, two guys who I think can be big contributors for them. What I really like about the Gabe Vincent signing is it gives you an excellent backup plan for if D'Angelo Russell decides to, play like D'Angelo Russell in the playoffs. So you have Gabe as a fallback guy, and, someone who averaged 16 points a game in a 7-game conference finals, it's a pretty good fallback option. Taurean Prince is a sneaky, great signing, 38% three-point shooter on decent volume, and a big forward. I can't believe it was that hard. It was that easy to get him, frankly. And I think signings like Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes are smart gambles, especially Reddish. He's had a super weird career, and I don't think he's had a completely fair shake. I mean, don't get me wrong. He could have sucked a little bit less in the time that he got to help his case, but his defense is good, and he shot 38% from 3 on 4.5 attempts in 34 games with the Hawks before being traded. His form looks good. I think there is a chance that he can actually be someone who matters when the postseason comes. But again, you have Taurean Prince, so, you got an abundance of defensive and big body fours that you can go to, on top of course, still having Jared Vanderbilt. In regards to their re-signings, well, I think they nailed it. Austin and Rui are both back on, I think, entirely underpaid contracts, which is obviously a very good thing for LA. Having undervalued contracts is often pivotal in the success of championship teams. So I think they killed it this offseason, which is, of course, ideal. I think Rob Pelinka deserves praise for how much he turned this team around. I mean, people were trying to get his head on a stake a couple of years ago, and honestly, somewhat understandably, trading for Russ in hindsight was like one of the most boneheaded decisions in the history of professional sports. And he has since recovered from that in such an insane and very, very good fashion that's genuinely remarkable and worthy of praise. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, Gabe Vincent, Taurean Prince, and Jared Vanderbilt. Those are all guys I feel good about in a playoff rotation. Except for, D'Lo, but again, that's why Gabe is here. I also really like the forward depth that they have. They have a lot of guys that they can throw, big bodies that they can throw at people on the perimeter. And, having that on top of AD in the paint, that's just a lot of defense and a lot for a team to have to worry about. I do think if there's any criticism I have, other than D'Lo maybe being a little bit overpaid and maybe not even should have been here, but Jackson Hayes is probably not going to be a great option for your center. I don't know if he's really going to be an NBA player. Jackson Hayes seems like a guy who was tall and could jump, and that got him in the NBA, but he's not actually that good at basketball. Maybe, he's got raw potential. You could potentially mold him into something, but I would have liked to see them get a big that had a little bit more established and could be relied upon more. They are rumored to be in the Christian Wood sweepstakes, so he would absolutely help. But either way, I like this team a lot, and what's good is with Reeves and Rui having the relative value that I think they do, and I think LA also finally getting access to more of their picks just because so much time has passed. I think they could actually put together a decent trade package if the right player became available, if necessary, if you really needed to beef this roster, if you felt that had to happen. Even then, I think the Lakers could go into next season, and me feeling worse about Denver going into this year, I could see LA winning that one, because you have to remember, it's not just these additions. They're going to have a full year of continuity. The Lakers played 8 games, I think, with LeBron after trading Russell Westbrook, and then they were in the belly of the beast in the playoffs by the time they were playing their 10th game together. That's just not ideal circumstance. You need those reps over the years to get to understand how to play together, to get a feel for each other, and a training camp especially to really ingrain that. So That alone, I think, would be like a 2-game difference maker versus Denver. And then you add all these good signings, I think LA could have a shot. But let me tell you what LA has to do to really make this plausible. They have to, like, religiously, like on principle, no question, don't even think about it, not even in when an emergency break glass type situation. Like, this is just something you do not touch. Don't have LeBron carry you at any point in the regular season, okay? Never. Not once. Like, sure, he can have like a fucking 10-0 run just because he's on the floor anyways if he really wants to. But like, please, LeBron, win us a basketball game. Please, we have nothing else to do. We have no other option. Please just go average 40 points for 4 games at age 100. You know, like, don't do that shit, man. LeBron should not be averaging 30 points per game at this age. He shouldn't have to. It feels like he only is because he has to. And if you got him down to just like 20, let him cruise the regular season, get a good feel for the offense, but ultimately not force things too much. You know, relatively unphysical season relative to what he's used to. I said relative again. And then when the postseason comes around, he's not hobbled and he didn't have to, you know, deal with the pressure of the weight of his entire team on his back. And subsequently, he would play better, which he notably did not play very good in this year's postseason outside of that last game. I realize he dealt with an injury, but that's honestly kind of the point, that he had to deal with that injury to begin with, is because you are asking him to do too much. So take the foot off the gas with LeBron, and not only is this good for LeBron, but it will also allow players like D'Angelo Russell, Gabe Vincent, it will allow Austin Reeves and Rui, just everybody who can create some offense to do that more and become better players and get used to that being in the flow of their game, you know? Austin Reeves especially, I think they should give him more responsibilities. I honestly think he might be their best pick and roll ball handler after LeBron James. Yes, I'm saying that over D'Angelo Russell. And the thing about this as well is, if your team needs LeBron to average 30 in 2023, then you might as well just pack it up. Like, that team's not good enough. Let it go at that point. Otherwise, though, run this team the full year, get the training camp in, let LeBron be old, and you go into this postseason with relative health, and I think anything is possible, and that's all you can really hope for. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.